Hey everyone, my name's FlareBlitzed here, and welcome to a different kind of video. You've probably seen the title and think to yourself that there might be something to worry about or something that needs to be raised of concern, but I promise you that there is nothing involved in this that is going to be life-changing or life-threatening in itself, because one of the main factors I'm going to talk about in this video is something that I've had since I was 2 years old. And it's always been in my life and is kind of just a desensitized factor to me at this point in time, where it's the case of, do you accept what you have, or do you keep denying and make a make-believe of yourself to try and believe that you're more of this quote-unquote normal kind of person, where you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have this difficulty, you don't have that allergy, and it can drain on you mentally over time. But I just want to say this right now again, that there's absolutely nothing to worry about. But the first thing I want to talk about is, some of you may not know, and I put a post up of this on YouTube and on my Tumblr and on my Twitter and my Facebook as well, is that just before 2018 started, I had to say goodbye to one of my dogs. He was called Milo, and he was an 11-year-old Jack Russell Terrier. He was the first dog I've ever had in my life, and thanks to him I got over my fear of dogs, having the courage to say that we'll get a puppy and raise it from when it was about 2 or 3 weeks old into a full-grown dog. And that sort of fact has changed my life forever, in the fact that making that decision has made me more friendly to dogs, as well as appreciated of the values that they give to people and the values that they give as a family, because over time the factor of having a dog itself has changed, varying from society to society in the world, where they're not just working animals, they're a part of our family, and losing one is incredibly detrimental. So I just want to talk this out loud and say that the dog I had in person called Milo, he, this time last year, I'm recording this on the 23rd of July, he was diagnosed with Cushing's disease. And if you don't know what it is, and I urge you to Google it up and see what it is for yourself, but it's one of those things that you always have to keep under control. Otherwise, like other conditions like diabetes, it will go completely south if you don't keep it under control. And for a while, a few months afterwards, we thought we had it under control, but then he developed severely front leg arthritis. I know that's not a thing, but I just pronounced that weirdly. But he had arthritis in both of his front legs, and the front legs contain most of the weight of a dog in comparison to the back legs, because the front legs are majority supporting the head as well as the frontal parts of the body, whereas the back legs just support the back of the body, not just the legs and the head of a being. So that's why having arthritis in your front legs if you're a dog is more dangerous than having them on the back legs. But regardless if you have it on the front or back legs, there, it's going to be bad. And I have no idea what it'd be like, because I've not had arthritis myself, and no doubt will have them in the future, because that's just one of those things that you get in life very commonly. But over time, the arthritis managed to get in the way of the Cushing's disease, where he would have to take 2 separate medications, and both medications kind of go against each other. So it's kind of like, do you want to have one extreme of suffering from Cushing's disease, or do you want to have the other extreme of suffering from arthritis? And this is when things turned really south, and it was kind of like a few weeks after that, it kind of got to the point where we had to make a decision. And it doesn't matter how prepared you are for situations like this. Nothing can prepare you for the gravity of a situation when it comes to losing a member of the family. And it also got to a point as well after that, then he developed other things like multiple organ failures. They were coming out towards failures. The only thing that was healthy was his heart. Had cysts everywhere inside of his body, and other things such as brain cancer was on the way. There was a trauma that was growing on his head and it kept increasing in size. The vets didn't say it was cancer, but I think at the end he was so lost in thought and he forgot what I said then. A delivery came through the door. But in the end, around December time, we had to make the decision that we felt that was best for him. And in life, at times, it can be very, very difficult, and your emotions overtake your sense of logic in a way. And this was mostly difficult for my father because I believe in the family he was the one who was most attached to Milo, and for a time he did not want to make this decision. Like, we all had to agree as a family to make the right decision, and it got slowly worse and worse. His condition. He didn't really know, or well, didn't really know what was going on around him. So it's like memory loss could be a thing in itself. And also at that time the vets did say, was your dog behaving aggressively? Because in that stage when you lose memories, you also lose the memories of who's around you in terms of family. If you question who they are, and it suddenly becomes a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. If you've ever played the Crooked Man, you'll know what I mean, because the mother of David Hoover, in that sense, was had memory loss through some. But in the end, on the 30th of December 2017, the decision was made, and that was when we visited the vets, and we had to say goodbye to him. I'm over it now, but on the day that we euthanized him, it was really hard for everyone, and my dad couldn't be there because in a way he would probably try and stop them from euthanizing him, so that word keep catching on. But it's hard, and at times in life things can be hard, and on days when you feel like you're peppy and motivated, then sudden thoughts come into your head and it brings you back down again. But it's only like a very temporary time where you reflect on things in your life, and you know that when decisions that hard are made, you know that you can either think to yourself that you've made the right or wrong decision. But it was a question of how much longer could Milo have gone through before he died of a natural cause, i.e. through your sleep or anything like that. But we didn't want to make him suffer through anymore, and we didn't want to have the chance of him becoming aggressive due to memory loss. So that's in the past. That's then. The only time I really cried, and this may sound horrible, but in times of life we need to move on from the past. But the only time I actually really let out tears was on the day, and it's just one of those things where it's okay to cry, it's okay to let out your emotions. And I managed to hold it in for a good while, but then it's kind of like, well, the dam can only hold so much water when it's cracked before it breaks, and like a dam breaking, the tears fell out. And that's not a weakness. Crying is not a weakness, and it lets other people know how you feel. So that's one element. The next thing I want to talk about is the work that I'm currently involved in, and at times it can be a mentally draining thing, so hence why on certain days I'm not uploading a video, because I don't want to go through the process of recording a video if I feel too mentally drained from the volunteering days that I work at. And at times I have to think about what I need to do for the next time I go into voluntary, so that I'm prepared for everything that I need to do. And the work itself is very confidential, so I'm only going to keep it to very, very, very basic, minimal terms. And essentially I volunteer for the police force, and I feel at the moment it is a very, very rewarding thing. There are so many nice staff there. But the thing I do is mainly IT based, and that's all I'm going to say about it, because like I said just now, it's a very confidential area to work in. You know, you're dealing with what people's people's lives essentially, and it's not a particularly easy thing to discuss about. You can't discuss it outside of work premises. Essentially, whatever you gain, whatever you acquire, you have to keep it in here, because you could be leaking out information, and I don't want to do that. So the only thing I'm going to say is, police, IT, that's it. But it can be a mentally draining thing at times, but it is a really rewarding work to go in. And hopefully soon I will be able to secure myself a full-time job there, so that income isn't sparse. Next thing I want to talk about is that I'm going to be starting to play more visual novel games on my channel, and this idea came about because I want to explore more genres which are heavily story oriented. I love games which have a lot of dialogue, a lot of story to it, a lot of mysteries to look at and trying to decipher what the hell is going on. Especially genres like horror ones or mystery ones, fantasy ones, sci-fi ones. I'm a pretty big fan of Steins Gate, if you ever seen that anime or played the visual novels. And the concept of time travel is just fascinating in itself. But in all other regards, there are particular genres which I'll probably avoid if it's too heavily reliant on that, and that's like ecchi, definitely not hentai, drama, anything that's kind of lewd focused. I'm not going to put my time into those sort of visual novels, because the main focus of that is something which I really don't want to go into. But if it's just like 1 or 2 times that it happens in a game, then it doesn't matter, because it's not the main core of the game, which is the other elements which come into it. So that's just one of the things I wanted to say, so that you guys know. But I will still be playing RPG Maker horror games, RPG Maker games, Wolf RPG editor games, and areas like that. But it's all good. And also today, the remake of Mermaid Swamp came out, and that's excellent. And I'll be recording that later on today, if the UK is not too bloody humid, because at the moment it is so bloody hot out there. It is unbelievably hot. I just came back from volunteering work, having a shower, and then it's just, even stepping outside, you just get this gigantic heat wave towards you, and then nah, just send me back indoors with a fan and I'll be very, very sorted. Nextly, and it's the main core of the title, and that is, everyone in the world has flaws. Everyone makes mistakes, and that's part of being a human being. And one of my main problems I've had, and this has been throughout my entire life, and some people on the internet don't really understand why, is the fact that I have trouble solving particular puzzles and pronouncing names. And before I enlist the reason why, I just want to show some examples of cases where I've had an extremely bad time trying to solve puzzles. The first game I want to involve in this video is one called Nostalgia, and it's only out as a demo, but if you play this game for yourself, or if you ever watched my let's play of it, you can tell that this game has many flaws to it, and one of the main ones is the puzzles and riddles which are inserted into the demo itself for the players to solve. They don't make any sense. I would say that the table related one has some logic behind it, but in the end of the day, that is a pun based answer, if you get what I mean, and it is quite of a jokey, quite of a puzzle in itself, because you would think to yourself, if you're dealing with stuff like tables and you're given a bunch of elements, then you would assume periodic table, but the answer in itself is just, it could be anything. But the puzzle after that, which involves the dolls, is the main crutch of this puzzle shenanigans. And the puzzle itself doesn't make any sense. The explanation is very, very cryptic. The clues given are even more cryptic. And at the end of the day, the puzzle itself can only be solved by shouting a particular word. And that word is something that you shout out when you feel like you're in a very, very dangerous situation in life, which is help. And you pronounce this word loudly by rising in bold caps, to then the answer is solved. But the clues are what makes this puzzle completely illogical, and the developers are the only people who don't understand why their own puzzle is so difficult. They say that it's easy. You can look up on their Tumblr page and see what kind of descriptions that they give. It's not logical. Regardless of which way you look at it, it is not logical. The next thing I'm going to talk about, and this is something that has been really recent, is a kind of a riddle thing that you need to solve in order to get the prize, which is based on the Rosary of the Reaper's Tumblr page, and it involves a set of letters that you need to decipher in order to translate into an image, and then from there do something mythical to be able to go from that. And the thing that frustrates me the most out of all of this, and there's something I'm going to mention later on, is the fact that the only clues which are given are text-based. And you need to convert numbers from numbers to text, which is the only part which makes sense. But the other part after that, no. You're given pastebin, and pastebin is used to storing text on the internet. Where the hell do you get an image from text, especially pastebin, which is not designed to translate text into an image? You can see the post up on Tumblr, and it says that in order to solve this you need to look at this, but obviously there's more to it, and it is mentioned by the developer of the game that it's not just a text-based puzzle, but there's also an image involved. Where's the image in the post that you've made? Like, there isn't an image in the post that you made. It's obvious that only certain people got an additional clue out of it. So that's why I'm so frustrated when clues are not given out. And in that regards, I sense that this piece, this riddle, this puzzle, is illogical. For me. People have been able to solve this, but not for me. Because I'm a very visual based person. I need to see what is in front of me and be able to work from it. But seeing only text does not do that. And it's just so frustrating. And I would say that I'm probably over exaggerating about this, and there probably is a way to do it, probably because if a human made it, then a human can solve it. But that's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because it's an extremely difficult thing to solve. But is it solvable? Well, for only a very, very minority of the people, it is solvable, but probably for the very, very masses, including myself, it's an impossible one. And that's why I'm saving that right now. It's another one of those cases which is impossible. And the last one I want to mention about, because I initially got really, really frustrated in this point, and I must say that it is entirely my fault because I didn't look at it. I didn't take enough time to analyze this puzzle in itself. And that's a particular puzzle in Aria's story. And it's mainly in the comedy section where you're given 3 different doors to go to, and you have to guess a particular object in a room with a riddle. You match the object with a riddle in order to actually advance through the story. And in one particular door, especially the hidden one, it involved a riddle which outlines something which isn't actually there in the room. You could say that it is, but on the surface it isn't. And that riddle in itself has the answer of heart. And to be honest, I'm really, really apologetic for the words I actually said in that video. I have no intentions of making anybody feel bad when it comes to me looking at the game, and it's always in the moment occasion when I do get angry and it's just something that it's just a curveball in the net, and I immediately after that I instantly regretted saying what I said. I thought it was an illogical puzzle. I thought it was not one that was thought out, and it goes from there. But the other one, which was even more cryptic at the time, was the arrow puzzles, which just kept going in different directions. There's a room that you go into and you guess one of the arrows in order to unveil a prize of sorts. I can't remember what it was now, but the only way that I was able to look at it and decide which one to actually do was process of elimination, going from row by row just to see, and there's no penalty in order by guessing the wrong one. And from there I had a second playthrough of the game on my own, and I noticed that only one of the arrows was pointed at by 2 or 3 other arrows, and that's the only way I thought that could be the logical answer to that one. But that was a case where I thought it was impossible, but it was not, because I didn't look at it at the right angle. Next thing that I have in mind, and it is something that is the main focus of the title, is my mistakes of mispronouncing names. And I just want to go through a little thing with you guys right now, just to tell you what my problem is when it comes to pronouncing names. I look at things phonetically. I only can pronounce a name based on how it's spelled out. So if a name has an entirely different way of being able to be pronounced, then it's not my fault for being able to pronounce them correctly, because my head is saying one thing, but in reality it's a completely different thing. So let me just show you right now of what I'm trying to get across, and that is, wait a minute, I shouldn't have the mouse enabled. There we go. So we have, wait a minute, I do want it actually. The existential crisis of being a YouTuber, not knowing your own settings. There we go. So, mouse will actually help. So we're going to go from I, Aiko, Aimi, Aina, Airi, Akini, Akari, Akimi, Aki, Akiko, Akio, Akira, Ami, Euri, Arata, Asuka, Atsuko, Aya, Ayaka, Ayako, Ayami, Ayani, I know that was one, Ayano, Ayuma, Chihiro, Chika, Chikago, Chainatsu, Chayu, Chayoko, Cho, Chu, Chuko, Daichi, Daiki, Daisuke, Emi, Etsuko, Fuyuko, Guru, Guru, Hacharu, Hacharu, Hana, Hane, Haniko, Haru, Haruko, Haruki, Haruko, Haruna, Haruto, Hayati, Hayato, Hibaki. You get the idea. I have to break up the words to be able to pronounce them phonetically, and unfortunately, actually I put my mouse on the wrong cursor this entire time, but I have to break the word down separately in either 2 or 3 letter fragments to be able to actually pronounce the word, like ha, ni, ko, ha, ru, ha, ru, ka, ha, ru, ki. You get the idea, but in other cases it is pronounced completely differently, because that's how languages work. You have one way, Hideyoshi. There are other ways to be able to pronounce this name, but these names which are obviously correct, but the way I pronounce names are phonetically, and if it's not phonetically correct, then unfortunately for me, I'm always going to pronounce the name wrong, because it just has that sort of thing on me. It's something that I've had ever since I was born, this difficulty of being able to pronounce names, Kenjin, and it's just something which I can't help. And some people find it incredibly difficult to understand why I pronounce names incorrectly. I'm not native to Japan, and I certainly don't have any understanding of the Japanese language. So for people who say that they know how to pronounce these names and literally try and make me feel stupid because they think they know best and they think they know everything and they think they have no flaws, but unfortunately, because you think you're perfect, that is a flaw, because you definitely do. And for people who think they're perfect, obviously have denial on their heads. And I'm sorry to say that, and it might sound horrible, but that is the case. Regardless of what you think. And regardless if you think that you can just adapt my views to suit your specific conditions in life. Like, I'm not a person who's going to change my views for your convenience. And the last thing I want to say, and it is by no means an excuse, and it's not an excuse because it is something that I've had ever since I can remember my earliest days of remembering stuff, and I have autism. It's not something that you can choose to have. It is a part of me. It's not something that you can dissect out of someone. It is a part of my anatomy. It is as much of an anatomy as fish needs to swim, or birds need to fly, or humans need to breathe. It's just there, you can't help it, and it is something that you live with. But the difference between accepting it and denying it is up to you if you have it. A make-believe is not something that is healthy. And how does this tie in with solving puzzles and stuff? And pronouncing names incorrectly? I have learning difficulties, I have communication difficulties, I have understanding difficulties. And it's not something that you can also say that is an excuse. And some people will probably say, oh, you're just saying this because you want people to make you feel bad, or you want to make people make you feel better. I don't want any sympathy about being autistic. I don't want any sympathy of people saying, oh, you're going to be okay. No, I don't want that, because then people are siding. I just want people to understand my angle from this, and that having learning difficulties means that I take things from a different angle from what the norm would consider to be normal. Oh, sorry about that. And unfortunately, some people do not get that. Some people try not to understand that. And it's very hard to be able to take feedback when people are only capable of being rude. And in most cases on my channel, when people try and correct me, they do go so from a nice side of it. They outline what I'm doing wrong, but they also add in a constructive and nice way of being able to give me feedback, which I love. I love it when people outline the problem and give it to me in a way that I can get and take for my own benefits. The people who I despise when people give feedback upon me pronouncing things incorrectly or me not being able to solve a problem is when people say that, oh my god, your mispronouncing hurts me, please stop. Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but a video is a video. You can't change my pronunciations just because it feels like you're hurt from it. There are channels out there which are perfectly adequate for being able to pronounce names correctly. Mine obviously isn't to your specific needs in life. And I'm not saying that to every single one of you who are watching this video. I'm saying this to the people who don't have the brain cells to understand what I go through on a daily basis. That's autism. It involves ADHD, involves dyspraxia. For some people it's dyslexia. At one point in my life, my mother was told by doctors that at one point my autism was that severe that I couldn't even talk. Imagine that. A FlareBlitzed that can't talk. If I couldn't talk, then I wouldn't make a channel in the first place like this. And what some of these perfect people don't understand is the ability to have any sympathy or any empathy. And when people say that autistic people are selfish, autistic people don't have any respect or understanding, we have difficulty being able to transfer our thoughts into visible, audible views, audible, visible clues, audible, visible answers. And like right now, I am having troubles being able to convey my thoughts into understandable views. And some people don't get that. And when they type all this out loud, they just think they're smart. They think they're awesome. They think they're perfect. They think they have no flaws in life. Like I said earlier, if you think that you don't have any flaws in life, then that is one of your flaws. Thinking that you don't have any flaws. Think about it. You're human. Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. But it's those mistakes that makes you into the person that you are today. No single person who's done successfully in their life has had an entirely smooth road. Everyone who has travelled through to make something out of their life has had an entirely smooth road. There's been good events, there's been emotional events, there's been catastrophic events, there's been events that shapes you into the person that you are. You need to see this on a 360-degree basis and see that because you're a viewer of this channel, you think of only the good things or the bad things. It's both of them, in a way, and it's up to you whether you decide whether it's good or bad in that scenario. But my learning difficulties in themselves makes me the person that I am. I think about things from one angle, or another angle, or this angle, or that angle, or that angle. It doesn't matter which way you look at things in life. Follow your dreams, whatever they may be, except if your dream is to be a serial killer, then I advise you to give up on your dreams entirely. For everyone's sake. When I look at puzzles in a visual way, when they don't have information which I can convey as hints or clues, that's when, inside my head, I get frustrated. And it's a slow process. It starts out as, okay, I'm not seeing how this puzzle can be solved, or I'm not seeing how this riddle can be solved. So I need to look around more and see if I've missed anything out. But obviously, sometimes that's not the case, and I get frustrated because I can't find anything that's helpful, such as the example I showed earlier in Nostalgia, where you're given a set of words and a set of names, but they don't mean anything. It's just information that's there. It doesn't serve a purpose, it doesn't fit within the story of the game, it's just there to throw you off, and it doesn't help. So at any times I do get frustrated, it's for a reason. And it's partially due to my learning difficulties to be able to understand a situation, but it's also down to said developers, or in brackets developer, because sometimes there's only one developer working on the game, when other times there are multiple people working on the same game. And it's sometimes their fault for not conveying clues which are logical in a sense. And I believe I can say this, that I talk on a perspective that is an experienced person at solving puzzles, but I can actually talk for the most beginner of people being introduced to these sort of games, because I have that learning difficulty which I can say that gives me troubles to be able to understand what I need to do. And that all comes down to seeing something visually, but it's just difficult to be able to understand something when the clues themselves are not translating into sense, logical sense. And that's where I'm going to wrap up this video, guys, and I'm probably not going to do one of these ones for absolutely ages, because it's not something that I really want to do every so often, but it is a video that I like to do every now and again, because it shows that I'm not just this person who makes games. I have opinions of my own, I have thoughts and values of my own that I like to convey forward, and also I like to interact with you guys there. And it's wonderful to be able to diverse from one kind of video to another kind of video every now and again. But for majority, it's always going to be about the playthroughs, walkthroughs, let's plays, full walkthroughs, or other videos that suit around the story oriented part of what I love about RPG Maker games. And in some cases in games they heavily rely on puzzles where the protagonist is mute and everything in the game is all puzzle based, and sometimes it's only really two different kinds of games in RPG Maker. You either have a story oriented game or a puzzle oriented game. A story oriented game, like let's say Pocket Mirror, involves that kind of storytelling which allows the player to witness and perceive and take it in their own thoughts and desires. But then there's a puzzle oriented game, a puzzle focused game like Bevel's Painting, where the main focus on there is the puzzle solving and getting through. But there may be some things in a game which could be considered a story, like Dark Bevel for example. If you play that game for yourself, you'll know what I mean, but if you haven't, then I suggest you play it to understand where I'm coming from, or watch my Let's Play if you haven't done so already, because I made it. And if you've made it this far into the episode, folks, then thank you so much for listening to me making countless grammar errors. And unfortunately for some people, they can't understand why some people make grammar errors. Some people can't understand why I don't understand how to solve puzzles, pronounce names incorrectly. But for those of you who have empathy, understanding, sympathy, able to see, able to hear what I'm saying and know that that's not what you meant. He was meant to say it like this, but you know that he knows that he's trying to get his thoughts and desires forward so that it in a way can be understandable. So thank you so much for watching, folks, and see you all in the next video. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves.